And now, with us in Washington to discuss the deal hammered out in Astana, Kazakhstan, is Shoshana Bryen, Senior Director at the Jewish Policy Center, and Alexander Nekrasov, a former Kremlin advisor who joins us from London. Welcome to you both. Alexander, let's start with you. President Putin said that Russia and its two guarantor partners are going to do all that they can to make this deal work. But given the interests of Iran in Syria and Turkey's battle with the Kurds, do you expect this deal to actually hold water and stay the course?
Well, to be honest with you, I think we're at such an initial stage, and there are so many uncertainties. And even the name, de-escalation zone, doesn't ring well to me, because what does it mean, de-escalation zone? I think it's just too early to say anything. I think the omens are not good. First of all, why they are not good? Because when they hammered out this plan in Astana, the three of them, Russia, Turkey, and Iran, every time they come up with an initiative, if the Americans are not there, if the Saudis are not involved, I don't know how it's going to work. If the Qataris, by the way, who are causing a lot of problems in Syria and other places, if they are not involved, this is just a proposal which can basically just disappear after a while, and that's it. So let's see what happens when Lavrov meets Trump and Tillerson, and see what happens there.
And as Alexander said, not to mention that the Syrian opposition parties are not part of this deal. But Shoshana, Secretary Tillerson has very non-committally talked about this perhaps constituting a positive first step. But seriously, does anybody even care what Washington has to say? Are they rendered irrelevant in this whole thing?
I don't think Washington is irrelevant. The bigger problem is that the Syrian government is not a party to this agreement. And the Syrian government and the United States government have clashed majorly over things like chemical weapons use. So I think the United States is skeptical, although we are prepared to put our weight behind whatever looks like it will help the civilians.
Alexander, I expected to hear from Shoshana that Washington is a marginal player and has allowed Russia to control this dynamic in Syria. What do they believe in Russia? I mean, you mentioned that Washington would be welcome if it would agree to sit at this table and work directly with the Russians.
Well, first of all, I personally think that this is a dangerous plan for Russia. I think that Russia is risking of getting seriously involved in the Syrian conflict with boots on the ground in a big way. Because to uphold these so-called de-escalation zones, you need troops on the ground. And unfortunately, that would mean that Russia would be dragged into this conflict. I don't see an end game at the moment at all. And this can be another Afghanistan for Russia.
Wow.
I think Turkey is playing its own game. I think it's agreeing with Russia, yes, the escalation zones, but it is playing its own game. It's got its own war with the Kurds, and it's sort of supporting this plan, but it can suddenly walk away from it. And the Iranians, well, they have their own agenda as well. They want to sort of strengthen their presence in Syria for a long time. I don't think that many countries would like that. So I honestly think there needs to be a completely different format for any sort of plan that provides safe havens for civilians to be enforced.
Alexander, please let me stop you here and move over to Shoshana. You know what Alexander just said reminds us of what President Obama said, to let the Russians go in, they'll get mired in the morass and become overcommitted. Perhaps it was smart in the first place for the Americans to stay this one out?
We're not out. We have allies on the ground in this fight, and if anybody attacks our allies, I think we will find ourselves in. But I do agree with Alexander that it's possible that the Russians will find themselves having to put troops on the ground to monitor this deconfliction zone. The alternative to that is to use Iranians, which is what the Russians have been doing all along in this fight. There are very few Russian ground troops. They are mostly Shiite militias organized by Iran. They are Hezbollah militias. And if those people think, if anyone thinks that those people are going to monitor deconfliction zones for the benefit of Sunni Syrians, I think they are mistaken. So I agree, there's a potential here that the Russians will have to come in and do it themselves, and that will be bad for the Russians.
Wow. Alexander, now this agreement does not preclude Russia from engaging in routine overflights over these de-escalation zones, and even from striking in these zones should rebel forces attack from there. So, again, what's the point?
Well, I think that this plan is just an initial stage, and I don't think it was thought through carefully. And I think that, you know, they put it out and see what others are going to say. But when people are saying that the Syrian rebels do not like this plan, they actually do like this plan, because it sort of paves the way for at least the humanitarian aid starting to come to some of the areas which are occupied by the rebels and so on. So they probably support this. As regards the Syrian government, I don't think it will be objecting too much if the Russians put pressure on it. But at the moment, of course, it is also waiting for what is going to happen around it.
Well, let me stop you here. We saw the Syrian opposition parties, some of them, walking out in anger from the conference room in Astana. So you believe that was theatrics?
No, well, they were protesting against the bombings, and obviously there's a diplomatic game going on there in Astana. So people walk in, they walk out, they refuse to talk to each other, and so on. But deep down, I suspect that they want this plan, because it is sort of a new phase in the war. Because if everybody sort of continues to fight, and we have all these sides fighting, there is no light in the end of the tunnel. Here, at least...
Alexander, on that light, no light at the end of the tunnel, I want to conclude with Shoshana. And you have followed Turkey and its strategic interests for many years now. Does this agreement seem to give them a free pass, that they can do what they want with the Kurds?
Yes, I'm afraid that it does. The people who will be deciding who the terrorists are and when the terrorists need to be bombed are the Russians, the Iranians, and the Turks. And the Turks will use the opportunity, as they've done before, to attack Kurds. The Syrians will use the opportunity to attack the rebels. The Iranians will use the opportunity to attack whoever they want. I think it's a disaster in the making.
On that really somber note, Alexander Nekrasov in London and Shoshana Bryen in Washington, thank you so much for joining us.